Hello viewers and welcome to an episode of Trashtalk on Flying Circus, Chariot of Steel Edition, a series that's all about discussing the good and very bad of the many tanks and tank-like vehicles you can find in the Chariot of Steel expansion for Flying Circus. In today's episode, Feldmaus OSF 1 and Schwimmtraktor OSF 4. Let's start with the Feldmaus. Year introduced, 1596, served with, Gotha Empire, engine, Bertha F1466, strengths, great ambushes, weaknesses, glass cannon. Officially the Leichter Waffenträger, a name which was likely never used by anyone outside of official documentation, the Feldmaus was designed in response to the lack of strategic flexibility in the armored units of the Rhona Pact. A Wandelburg attack could take weeks of setup, requiring heavy cargo airships or even full-sized skylines, and thus couldn't be moved in time to counter enemy armored thrusts. The Feldmaus was light enough to move on field skylines, granting strategic mobility that would enable the vehicle to be quickly moved from reserves. When enemy tanks massed, they could be quickly mobilized opposite as a self-propelled field gun that could evade counter-battery fire. Once the trench lines broke down, though, the Feldmaus found its true calling, ambushing enemy convoys from concealed positions. Stalking through the sparse wild of northern Machi, the Feldmaus was pivotal in preventing the armies of the republics from rallying. A successful modification was an infantry support conversion, which replaced the anti-tank cannon with a large low-velocity mortar modeled on the 80mm bunker busters used by the Fokker kingdoms. As the war turned urban, production of this variation exceeded the regular model. The Feldmaus is anything the Wandelburg and Rambach aren't: fast, agile, and also not as tough. The Feldmaus moves at a blistering speed of 30 km per hour at max, actually have a good torque to move quickly over obstacle and rough terrain, and also actually has handling which gives it a slightly better chance in winning tank battle even with a main gun in a single direction. It however, has 3-2-1 armor layout, which mean a field gun will definitely go through it like butter frontally, and both repeater cannon as well as infantry support cannon have a chance of going through it frontally, not helped by the fact that it has 20 integrity, which means a field cannon is more than enough to set this on fire immediately, which I actually personally demonstrated in a beta test game by rolling a natural 20, which also doubles the damage. Those Roman cosplayers never stood a chance. Safety is pretty low but better than being in a car, reliability is better due to its lighter weight, and it has a somewhat good fuel economy, and also being quite cheap to run. The Feldmaus only has one weapon, a field gun aimed frontally, nothing else. It's an ambush predator specifically designed for one thing, ambushing tank from angle they never expected. It's a tank destroyer essentially, so going for the amply named tank destroyer mastery is a good idea if you start with this vehicle, which gives you many moves that you need, like being tougher when hull down, dealing damage more effectively, and being able to get the hell out quickly. The Feldmaus even has a trait for that, called reverse gears, which makes the Feldmaus reverse as fast as driving forward, and this also lets Feldmaus shoot in tank battle even if you only pick the escape goal, which is very good. But there's also another thing. Tank is very noisy. Even if you are sitting still at an ambush spot, your engine will be loud as hell. A tank might not be able to hear it because it is loud enough inside, but their infantry escort definitely will. Turning your engine off is required for concealment move to even be used, and restarting the engine in this era takes a painful amount of time you don't have right after firing and having to escape all the attention you have put on yourself. Which is why the Feldmaus also has shotgun starter, which lets the driver start the engine immediately, at the cost of the engine taking 4 RPM immediately. RPM is used for basically any tank moves, including tank battle or even just crossing terrain. Anything that push your engine probably takes a RPM. Having 4 immediately when you start the engine means you have 3 left to spend before you need to risk checking your engine, so whatever you do, you better do it fast and efficiently. But it does means that Feldmaus is very good at being what it does, an anti-tank ambush predator that can get away as fast as it makes its presence known, and while its lack of anti-infantry weapon makes it at risk of being ambushed by infantry, it does have 4 hatches, one for each crew, so that can be a lot of pintle-mounted guns, and yes, it only needs 4 crews, so it's a pretty economical armored vehicle to run. As for the modifications, it has the Feldmaus variant that replaces the field gun with assault howitzer as well as adding gas filter. This variant is meant to get close to the action due to its short range and uses its big howitzer to blast buildings and infantry into pieces, though it can work against vehicles from sheer concussion force in a pinch. Then there's the Feldmaus variant, an experimental variant that carry a pair of coaxial heat ray recoilless cannon, which is absolutely insane because that's essentially 60 damage, before being doubled by incendiary tag, but there's multiple problems with this. There's 2 modes of fire with heat ray weapon, Pulsed and beam. Pulsed remove awkward tag, which make this weapon effective against infantry by essentially dumping 30 damage into one unfortunate fellow, but this bring the AP down from 2 to 1, meaning it's useless against armored vehicle, and high explosive shell is way more effective against infantry. The other mode is beam. This increase the AP to 3, but only at knife range, and you will have a harder time hitting a moving target, meaning to use this effectively, you have to get really close to someone, and hope the target doesn't notice you. Alternatively, get to a position where you can see the enemy rear, then you don't need to get too close, but that's still a problem because recoilless cannon is close range, which means anything beyond is a bit hard to hit even with heat ray. But, if you do hit and the attack pierce through, everything you shot at will die in one go, 100%, this only costs 5 more thaler. As for how to deal with a Feld Mouse, a lot of weapon will have an easy time dealing with the armor of this vehicle, but finding it would be an issue in the first place. It would be like trying to catch a mouse, and the mouse has an anti-tank cannon. The best defense against a Feld Mouse would be instead, not have a better tank or better crew, but a good infantry escort to look out and deal with the problem themselves, as Feld Mouse has little to deal with infantry. Now, let's move on to the Schwimmtraktor. Year introduced, 1598, served with Gotha Empire, engine, 2 Bertha F1466, strengths, technically amphibious, weaknesses, technically a tank. Assault operations in the Caproni Islands were handled primarily by the Fokker elements of the Rhona Pact, as Fischer-Vogt units unsurprisingly made excellent marines for the haphazard amphibious operations of the campaign. Nervous that they were ceding too much ground to their increasingly temporary ally, the Gotha military had designs drawn up for amphibious equipment to seize these islands in any coming conflict. Fortunately for the Empire, during the occupation of Machi many of the dockyards and shipbuilders of the republics fell into Gotha hands. This expertise was employed to design a new swimming tank, envisioned as something like a Feld Mouse that could float. However, the project soon spiraled out of control. More weapons meant more displacement, requiring more armor, requiring more displacement. Though the end result was under-armored, oversized, and awkward, it was accepted that the Schwimmtraktor didn't have to be a good tank, it just had to be a tank. The island garrisons it would be employed against would not have any such vehicles of their own, after all, nor would they at all be prepared to see such vehicles roll out onto the beach. Well, that was the theory, at least. The Schwimmtraktor is really an thin-shelled oversized mess of a vehicle. It's slow as hell, has terrible torque, and has negative handling, which is a first here. It only has 2 armor in every side but also 34 integrity, somewhat decent safety, averagely reliable, might need extra fuel storage, and also give its crew quite a stressful day. Its price is just average, I supposed. The Schwimmtraktor is an amphibious assault vehicle, which is another term for there's easier way to kill yourself, because amphibious assault is an extremely difficult and costly operation to conduct, and your enemy can usually predict where you will be landing just from local geography, as many military snafu constantly demonstrated throughout history. I'm not even talking about crossing ocean, even crossing river can be highly lethal when bullets and shells are involved. And with 2 armor, any kind of anti-tank weapons could easily go through this thing. Even a pub machine gun can shoot this thing apart, eventually, but it also has 34 integrity, which mean it can just take a lot of hits, and also has the empty space feature, which subtract 1 from incoming damage confirmation roll, meaning there's only a 40% chance that a damage result would stick. So in a sense, this thing is tough, just better make sure that your crew has good protection too. As for its armament, it has 2 infantry support cannons and 2 water-cooled machine guns, but also placed in such a way that 2 of them will never be relevant in a direction. Isn't it great that we invented proper turrets for our tanks and IFV? This, combined with the armor layout, does mean that no matter the direction, you will have the same level of firepower and protection, it's just that you don't even have much of it to start with. Also, this thing is, as I mentioned earlier, dubiously amphibious, as when it's in water, its integrity counts as 24 and its safety is dropped to 1, meaning not only is it more vulnerable on open water, a field gun can set it on fire, this thing also needs 9 crews to run, with appropriate naval crew title instead of the usual, plus a mechanic to fix things up because this thing definitely needs a lot of fixing in combat. Unlike the Wandelburg, sadly, I don't see any way to reduce the crew number without tremendously reducing the effectiveness of this vehicle. It really does need that many crew to run well. However, the Schwimmtraktor really does have one advantage most other vehicles don't. Being amphibious capable really does unlock options that were otherwise unable to be considered before, like crossing over river or other water bodies to flank the enemy from unexpected direction, The Schwimmtraktor can't really take much high AP firepower, but against other light tanks, vehicles, and infantry, a Schwimmtraktor can usually handle them. But, as soon as you see a real actual tank, I suggest reversing as rapidly as 10 km/h speed allows you to, but in a pinch, you can still take hits that most other tanks can't from the sheer amount of integrity you have, so a gun focusing on you is one that isn't focusing on your allies that going for a rear shot. As for the modifications, there's only one, an IFV or supply tractor variant that can replace 2 stern gunners with 10 passenger space, perfect for a squad, or a medium cargo to carry large stuff across open water. And in case you want more guns, there's also 4 hatches, so you could have 8 bloody guns blazing if you want to. Going full offense when you don't have much armor might be a good idea. As for how to deal with this thing, just shoot it. Just about anything you have can go through its armor. It's gonna take a while, but it will burn eventually. If you caught it on water, even better. And that's basically it on these 2 tanks, the rapidly reversing ambush predator that is the Feld Mouse, and the dubiously amphibious Landship that is the Schwimmtraktor. Anyway, that's all for now, and I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe and click that notification bell button. If you want to see the videos early as well as further support my channel, you can join in my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.